Before the arrival of Rasulullah, most of the people of Medina had already accepted Islam. Some Makkah Sahaba radiallahu anhu of Rasulullah had worked among the people of Medina. Their work made the people of Medina into Ansar helpers and supporters for the cause of Islam. Rasulullah had stayed in Makkah until almost all his Sahaba radiallahu anhu had reached and reached the safety of Medina. He made his move only after he had received Allah's command to do so. He left behind his trusted cousin Ali radiallahu anhu to take care of the remaining work. Thus, Hijrah was a well planned, divinely guided transition from the operation of slavery to the freedom of Islamic life. Hijrah shows the complete submission of Muslims to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will and Rasul Akram Sallallahu order. When Allah asked the Muslims to leave their families, friends, homes, and country, they obeyed without hesitation. It was no doubt a big sacrifice on the part of the Meccan Muslims. That is why the Quran gives good tidings of Muhajirin. Who are Muhajirin? Muhajirin are the people who have migrated from Makkah to Medina, and Ansar were the people of Medina. Those who made Hijrah for the cause of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala after they were persecuted, we will surely give them goodly home in this world, and the reward of hereafter is even greater if they would know it. Even now, if we travel from one place to another place for the sake of Allah, we migrate from one place to the other place for the sake of Allah, inshallah we will also get the reward like this. So now come to the point. This was a great test of Muhajirin's faith and a great act of self-sacrifice through Hijrah. Allah taught us that when it comes to a choice between slavery and freedom, a Muslim must always choose freedom. If a Muslim is not allowed to practice Islam in a society and he finds it possible to change that society, he is required by Allah to leave that society and go to a land of freedom. Those people who prefer temporary gains and security over Hijrah and continue to live a life of slavery are condemned by the Quran. At the time of death of compromise makers will be asked by the angels why they chose that immoral un-Islamic life. They will have to answer that they were powerless and weak. The angels of death will then admonish them. Was the earth of Allah not big enough for you to make Hijrah in it? For such people, their place will be hell at the end of evil journey. The Sahaba radiallahu anhu of Rasul Akram Sallallahu, however, were not among these weak, hated people. They sincerely responded to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's call and made Hijrah. Hijrah tell us about the Muslims' firm faith in the promises of Allah. Allah on the night of Miraj had promised Rasul Akram Sallallahu that their trial was coming to the end. The power of kuffar was going to break. The Muslims were going to be rewarded for their faith. The Quran says in clear words, and say, the truth has come. The falsehood was perished. Falsehood by its nature was bound to perish. This ayat was mentioned in Surah Isra, Surah number 17, ayat number 81. Now, a weak-minded person might have asked, what kind of promise is that? The Muslims would have to leave their country and lose whatever they had. But no Muslim raised such a question. They felt honored to follow Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command. Their faith in His promise remained unshaken. The Muslims knew that what Allah had for them in the future was best for them, and that their true reward was in the hereafter. They had no fear in their hearts about their future, and on their lips was the prayer which Allah taught them. This ayat is mentioned again in Surah Isra, ayat number 18. And O Muslim, pray to Allah, my Lord, my entry by the gate of truth, and make my exit through the gate of truth, and give me from your presence power to support me. Hijrah also shows the extreme love of Sahaba radiallahu anhu for Rasul Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam, for Sahaba. The love of Rasul Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam was so great that life of Makkah would become meaningless without him. They were prepared to leave everything in order to be with him. In fact, no people in human history have shown such sincere dedication to their leaders did these early Sahaba radiallahu anhu to Rasul Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam. The Quran confirmed this love to Sahaba radiallahu anhu. The Prophet is declared to Muslims, then their slaves. This was mentioned in Surah Al-Ahzab, Surah number 33, ayat number 6. Due to Hijrah, Muslims suffered many hardships, but they did not mind these physical discomforts in Hijrah. They saw the beginning of the fulfillment of the promises of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah promised the Muhajirin, whoever makes Hijrah for the cause of Allah, he finds much refuge and abundance in the world. This was mentioned in Surah Nisa, ayat number 100. The Muhajirin believed in Allah's promise. Soon the Muslims discovered that although they had been a small minority in Makkah, in Medina they were a majority. They had been disliked in Makkah. In Medina they were welcomed. In Makkah they had not been allowed to say their prayers in public. In Makkah they left blood relatives and friends who were kuffar. In Medina they found new brothers and sisters of faith who were Muslims. The life of Makkah had been a life of oppression and slavery. The life in Medina was of political liberty and religious freedom. Hijrah was thus the beginning of the fulfillment of Allah's promises. However, there were many more tests and trials ahead. The Meccan Muslims who did Hijrah were called Muhajirin, the immigrants. The Muslims of Medina who helped Rasul Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam and his companions were called Ansars, the helpers. Many other Muslims came from outside of and settled in Medina. All of them made the Ummah, the community, or the common brotherhood of Islam. Though strangers, they became friends and relatives. The Quran speaks about them in beautiful words. And about the pioneers of Islam, first of the Muhajirin and the Ansar, and those who followed them in good deeds. Allah is very pleased with them, and they are very pleased with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This ayat was mentioned in Surah Tawbah, ayat number 100. Now this Ummah of Islam which follows the Sahaba radiallahu anhu in their good deeds today consists of close to 1 billion people in the world. Its number has always continued to increase. It has never decreased. Islam invites all mankind to forget their differences of race, language, color, and nationality and unite in one Ummah, as did the Muslims in Medina under the guidance of Rasul Akram sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So this was all about Hijrah. What is Hijrah? Who are Muhajirin? Who are Ansar? And so this was the new beginning of Islam, and this is how Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam migrated towards Medina, and how the people of Medina have welcomed Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So for today, this much was enough. Inshallah, I will see you in the next class. Wa akhiru da'wana alhamdulillahi rabbil alameen. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.